Hey guys, I welcome back to my channel. So today we'll be discussing about Hanau squint and the interrelationships of the various factors which are a part of Hanau squint. So how this interrelationship plays an important role in balanced occlusion. So that is all we are going to learn today. So before that, please subscribe my channel and share the video if you like it. So we know that there are various concepts of balanced occlusion which have been proposed by various authors. So among this, the most widely accepted is the Hanau's concept and Hanau's squint. So Rudolf Hanau basically proposed 9 factors, but these 9 factors they were shortlisted to form a Hanau squint. So in this Hanau squint there are 5 factors usually which are being responsible for the balanced occlusion. So that is condylar guidance, incisal guidance, compensating curves, relative cusp height, and plane of orientation of the occlusal plane. So these are the 5 factors which have been shortlisted from the 9 factors which were proposed by Rudolf Hanau, and these 5 factors are collectively called as Hanau squint. So we'll just see that how each and every factor affects the teeth separation in the patient. So first is the condylar guidance or inclination of the condylar path. So basically this condylar guidance, it is recorded with the help of the protrusive record. But then what is the condylar guidance? So condylar guidance or condylar guidance angle, it is the angle which is formed by the Frankfurt's horizontal plane and the line joining the deepest part of the glenoid fossa and the crest of the articular eminence. So this angle, it is called as condylar guidance or condylar guidance angle. Basically, more the angle, more steeper would be the condylar path, and more steeper would be the condylar path, more would be the tooth separation. And this whenever the condyle moves into the forward position during the protrusion, so if the condylar guidance is more, this means that the slope of the glenoid fossa, it is very much steeper. Okay, and more the steeper the slope of the glenoid fossa, more will be the tooth separation, because the condyle has to travel that much distance to come near the articular eminences. Hence there is more tooth separation in case of this steeper condylar guidance. So if we conclude this, we can say that more the condylar guidance, more will be the tooth separation. Hence condylar guidance is directly proportional to the tooth separation. Moving on to next, that is incisal guidance. So incisal guidance, it is basically an angle between the palatal incline of the maxillary incisor and the horizontal plane. So in an adjoining figure we can see that there is a line which has been passing along the palatal incline of the maxillary incisor, and there is an horizontal plane. Okay, so then what is incisal guide angle? So the incisal guide angle, it is an angle between the plane of occlusion and the line joining the incisal edges of maxillary and mandibular incisor. So again in an adjoining figure we can see that there is a line which is been running from the incisal edges of maxillary as well as mandibular incisor, and the angle between this line which is joining the incisal edges and the plane of occlusion, that is horizontal plane, is called as the incisal guide angle. We know that bite can be a deep bite or a shallow bite. So you'll see that how deep and shallow bite they affect the incisal guide angle and the tooth separation. So in the first case, if we see the patient with the deep bite, so if we imagine, we can understand that in patient with deep bite, the incisal edges of the maxillary as well as mandibular incisors, they are away from each other. Okay, so whenever the patient tries to bring the jaw in the forward position, that is an anteriors in edge to edge position, what happens is, because the incisal edges are away from each other, the incisal guide angle is going to be more. As patient tries to bring the incisal edges in edge to edge position, this is going to lead to more tooth separation in the deep bite patient. Whereas in case of shallow bite, the incisal edges are not that away from each other, they are nearby. Okay, so whenever patient tries to bring in edge to edge position, the patient can attain the edge to edge position quickly, because the incisal edges are not far from each other, unlike to that of deep bite patient. So in case of shallow bite, the incisal guide angle is obviously shallower, and as patient soon attains the edge to edge position, because of the shallow bite, the tooth separation in the posterior area is lesser. So if we conclude this, we can again come to the conclusion that more the incisal guidance or incisal guide angle, more will be the tooth separation. Hence, incisal guidance is also directly proportional to the tooth separation. Similarly, condylar guidance is also directly proportional to the tooth separation. So we have discussed these first two factors, and these first two factors, that is condylar guidance and incisal guidance, both are directly proportional to the tooth separation. So if we summarize this, we can directly say that more the condylar guidance, more is the tooth separation, whereas more the incisal guidance, more is going to be the tooth separation. So coming on to next factor, that is compensating curves. So here we will not be able to discuss compensating curves in total. We have different videos for compensating curves made on our channel, so you can just click the I button and go for the same. Coming on to next, that is cuspal angulation. So cuspal angulation, it is basically an angle made by average slope of cusp with cusp plane measured mesiodistally or buccolingually. So there is a Swenson's equation to calculate the cusp inclination. So cusp inclination is equal to incisal inclination plus half of the difference between condylar guidance and incisal guidance. So the main thing to notice and understand is, in dentures there should always be minimum 3-point contact maintained. So in any situation we should maintain the teeth contact but without interferences. So in case of our natural teeth, we know that there is Christensen's phenomena. There is posterior teeth separation whenever the patient protrudes the lower jaw. But in case of dentures, we cannot afford this Christensen's phenomenon, because this would lead to loss of stability of the dentures. So what is a tripod contact actually? So here we can see 4 figures. Figure A is just a centric contacts of all the teeth. Figure B and figure C is the lateral movement, and figure D is the protrusive movement. Now if we see figure B, in case of lateral movement, there is still contact maintained in the molar area. We can see the encircled area. In figure C, again in case of lateral movement, there is disclusion of the anterior teeth and premolar area, but the contact is still maintained in the molar area. Figure D, in case of protrusion, there is still contact maintained in the molar area. So the conclusion is, whichever type of movement occurs in the denture, the contact has to be maintained somewhere in the teeth. So that is called as balancing or balanced occlusion. Factors governing the balanced occlusion and their interrelationship. Now there is a equation called as Thielman's equation. Now Thielman's equation states that condylar guidance is inversely proportional to incisal guidance, whereas other 3 factors are directly proportional to condylar guidance and inversely proportional to incisal guidance. Now what all 5 factors of balanced occlusion we have? Condylar guidance, incisal guidance, cuspal angulation, plane of occlusion, and compensating curves. So these are the 5 factors. Among that, the condylar guidance and incisal guidance are inversely proportional always. Now for example, if we have condylar guidance deeper or steep, then we need to reduce the incisal guidance, or vice versa. If we have shallow condylar guidance, then we need to increase the incisal guidance. Whereas the relationship of the other factors with condylar guidance and incisal guidance are as follows. The condylar guidance is directly proportional to factor number 3, 4 and 5, whereas incisal guidance is inversely proportional to factors number 3, 4 and 5. Let us see the figure. In first figure we have condylar guidance which is steeper. So according to first statement, which is written below, condylar guidance is inversely proportional to incisal guidance. So accordingly, if we have steeper condylar guidance, the incisal guidance should be reduced. And according to second statement, all other 3 factors are directly proportional to condylar guidance. This means that if the condylar guidance is steeper, then the cuspal angulation should be increased, plane of occlusion should be increased, and compensating curves should be again deeper. These 3 factors are directly proportional to condylar guidance and inversely proportional to incisal guidance. Now logically, if we think, if the condylar guidance is deeper, so as we protrude the jaw, there would be more separation between the posterior teeth. So we need to have the contact between the posterior teeth. So as there would be more separation between the posterior teeth, we need to increase the cusp height, plane of occlusion, and we need to make the compensating curves deeper to obtain the contact between the maxillary and mandibular teeth. So this is shown itself in the first column. Similarly, if we go on to the second case, in second case we have shallow condylar guidance. Now if the condylar guidance is shallow, we need to increase the incisal guidance, because in this case, suppose if we reduce the incisal guidance, there would be interlocking between the posterior teeth. So as there would be interlocking, this would lead to interference, and if this would lead to interference, this would lead to loss of stability of the denture. And as we also know that condylar guidance is inversely proportional to incisal guidance. So if condylar guidance is shallow, then incisal guidance should be increased. Accordingly, we also know that condylar guidance is directly proportional to the other three factors. So in second figure, condylar guidance is shallow. So as it is directly proportional to other three factors, the other three factors should also be decreased. Third case is if there is steep condylar guidance with steep incisal guidance. In some cases, because of aesthetics or functional point of view, we cannot decrease the incisal guidance to some extent. So in that case, if we need to keep steep incisal guidance, then we need to increase the all three other factors. If condylar guidance in this case is steeper, so as we know that condylar guidance is directly proportional to the other three factors, we need to increase other three factors also. Whereas in second case, condylar guidance is shallow. So as condylar guidance is shallow, we need to decrease other three factors also. To summarize the thing, read the below two statements. If both condylar guidance and incisal guidance are steeper, like first column, this is steeper and this is also steeper, so other three factors has to be increased. If these both are steeper, then other three factors has to be increased. Whereas if condylar guidance and incisal guidance is shallower, in that case other three factors are also made to be shallow. So to summarize the entire thing, we have a table. So we have each columns of each factor, like condylar guidance, incisal guidance, compensating curves, plane of orientation or occlusal plane, and relative cusp height. If we see the first one, condylar guidance, if it is steeper, so we know that incisal guidance, it is inversely proportional to condylar guidance. Hence we would keep incisal guidance shallow. Whereas the other three factors are directly proportional to the condylar guidance. Hence, if the condylar guidance is steeper, we are going to keep compensating curves, plane of orientation, and relative cusp height as steep. In the second case, if the condylar guidance is shallower, so again incisal guidance would be steeper and the other three factors would be shallower, as they are directly proportional to the condylar guidance. Now in the third case, if the condylar guidance is steeper and because of some of the other reasons we cannot make the incisal guidance shallow, okay, so in that case still the other three factors would be steeper because they are going to be directly proportional to condylar guidance. Similarly, in the last case, if the condylar guidance is shallower, again the other three factors is going to be shallow, though if we are not able to keep the incisal guidance steeper. So I hope that's clear. Thank you so much guys for watching till the end. If you like the video, please like, share and subscribe my channel, Akshay Bhandari's Dental Videos. See you soon. Thank you.